watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube, if that is how you are watching us, or via LinkedIn or Twitch, if they are your viewing pleasures. Please join in with the show and add your comments in the chat. But obviously, as we always say, do keep them respectful. If you're watching on Catch Up, thank you very much for finding us. Add your comments below. We always read them. And if you are listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending me your ears. Next time, if you could just take the wax out, that would be absolutely fantastic. And remember to follow us on all the main socials. On everything, it's just LTID TV. You can't not find us. Tonight's show is a preview. It's back. Proper football is back. We had the debut. Well, all right, we got through to the final, but was that the most boring Euros I've ever? And I'm 63, and it's the worst one I can remember that we've actually made it through to. Then, of course, we had the Olympics. Let's move on from that. But tonight it is the preview show of the opening fixture for Leicester City, Tottenham, who we are hosting on Monday night. And I'm going to be joined by Barnaby from the Spurs on podcast. And we will bring him in straight after this. Barnaby, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I am very well, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm a little upset at that Premier League trophy behind you, to be honest, mate. I feel like that's a sly dig, isn't it?
But to be honest with you, you've pulled the rug out from under my feet. You knew at some point that I would be pointing out this is what you could have won.
I'm just about over it, mate. Third in a 2-horse race. I'm just about over it.
Funny you should mention that.
I'm doing the gags before because I know they're coming.
We'll get low. Look, we'll get it out the way. And who knows? This season could be your season. It's definitely not going to be our season this season.
I feel like we've been here before, haven't we?
Yes, haven't we just? But no, thank you very much. We have put your links and details in the description below, but just start off by giving everybody a shout out as to where they can find you.
Yeah, so I do a daily YouTube channel, which is kind of Spurs based. It's nominally called the Spurred On Podcast. You can also find the Spurred On Podcast on all the usual podcast platforms. But I've actually pivoted a little bit over the summer because was there realistically enough Spurs news to go around over the summer? No. So I've done kind of mostly Spurs transfer news and Spurs news, but also then kind of pivoted at the back end of all of my episodes to kind of Premier League transfer news as well. And that seems to have been quite popular. So you can find me at Barnaby Slater _ on YouTube to find those shows, which will be carrying on till the end of the transfer window. And then kind of, I guess, more Tottenham based once the season fully kicks into gear.
Well, can I just say, and throwing this back at you, I mean, you are jealous of the trophy that we have there, but we're also jealous because you've actually managed to get a striker in.
We have. Well, you guys not rating Jamie Vardy anymore?
Well, yes, if he could play.
He doesn't need too many Skittles, too many Red Bulls. It's all come back to haunt him, is it?
It has indeed. I mean, going into this game, it was 5 games ago. It was our first pre-season friendly behind closed doors against Seville. And he stubbed his toe or something ridiculous like that, and he's not been near the training ground since.
All right.
And that's the problem when you've got somebody that you're relying on that like Jamie Vardy, because he's of an age now. Well, like I know if I cut my finger, it takes me 5 times as long to heal as it would for you, for example. So yeah, that's the problem. Then of course we've got Daka. Quite honest with you, the old proverbial couldn't score in a brothel striker.
Right.
I mean, he has at the moment got a hospital boot on. And I may have suggested that he might have wanted to play in that and actually might score if he wore that. And then we've got Tom Cannon, who's never played in the Premier League and the new manager doesn't seem to like him. So yeah, we are extremely jealous, and we've been linked with about every striker going that's not going to cost us. Zaha was the latest one that we were linked with.
Yeah.
But apparently he's having a bit of fight with the taxman at the moment. So.
Well, that happens quite a lot to players who go out to Turkey, doesn't it? I mean, funnily enough, I think I saw a report that Zaha's agent was touting him about to us earlier this week as well, and that's beyond ridiculous, because that goes so far against our current transfer strategy, which is to really kind of go back to the kind of strategy that has been successful for Spurs a lot of the time over the last 20 years, really, since ENIC and Daniel Levy came in. They've only really had success in the transfer market when they've gone young and hungry, with players who will want to grow with Spurs and then potentially take the next step after that. So you're talking your likes of Michael Carrick, Dimitar Berbatov, Gareth Bale, Luka Modric, etc. They've all come from that kind of transfer strategy. And I think potentially, other than actually Dominic Solanke, who I know you're alluding to there in terms of us getting a striker, other than that, we've really gone down that route with Archie Gray from Leeds, who I'm sure you saw a lot of last season, and Lucas Bergvall, who we brought in from Sweden, who for me is the most exciting young player I've seen play, certainly in a pre-season at Spurs since probably Dele Alli came in. And obviously his first game, or certainly I think the first game he scored in, was at the King Power, in a game I was at kind of in that, 14-15 or 15-16 season under Pochettino. So we've bought young, we've bought hungry, and I think that will continue. But yes, to talk about Solanke coming in, I think at first a lot of Spurs fans were slightly underwhelmed by the link, but I think they've since gone to see a lot of his clips and gone to kind of realize that actually, in terms of what Postecoglou wants to finish off the chances that we make, and we make a lot of chances from getting to the byline and cutting balls across. And so far last season, really the only goals we were scoring from that were from, if it was on the right-hand side, with Brennan Johnson going to the byline, then it would be Timo Werner or Son Heung-min coming in from the left-sided forward to score. But very rarely, other than a kind of 8-9 game spell, was it Richarlison in the middle scoring those goals. So I think Solanke will be a more kind of continuous presence in the box to finish those chances. And I think if he scores the goal early in his Spurs career, then I could see him getting 20 Premier League goals this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be the difference, to be honest with you. And we'll talk about sort of where we think everybody will finish next season. But I think that could make the difference for you. Generally, over the summer, you touched on it there before, but I mean, we've had an absolutely chaotic summer. It couldn't have been a worse summer. We'd prepared for the new season. We'd offered some players extended contracts because that was what the manager wanted. Then the manager up and left and went to Chelsea. It was quite funny because he stopped us going to America on a pre-season tour, moved to Chelsea and went to America on a pre-season tour. But fortunately, he's not settling in very well there. What a shame. But there's always panto work at Christmas. And of course, so we lost the manager. Then we went and lost James Maddison as well, which we kind of accepted that was more than likely going to happen because of all this PSR.
You don't mean James Maddison, do you? Who do you mean? Because James Maddison was a year earlier.
No, KDH. Sorry, Kieran Dewsbury Hall. Sorry.
Yes, Dewsbury Hall, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I presume but that's wrong with me. So he said he was never going to go, but we knew we had to sell him. It's like I say with James Maddison, and Harvey Barnes to Newcastle. Yeah, it was what we were trying to do to sort of avoid the
points deduction. Yeah. And you won't avoid it, will you? Realistically.
No, but what gets me is, and I'm not going to go down the line of, why aren't Manchester City and Chelsea and all this being done? What annoys me is that when I look ahead to this season, I can't get excited because we won't be the only team that's going to be done this season. I honestly think, Everton have been warned as well, and Forest. There's going to be a few, and I think the fact that whatever happens on the pitch, the league this season will be decided by men sat around a board table. Yeah,
look, mate. Firstly, we're all at the whim of Chelsea, basically. So, I don't know what number Maresca was down the list of managers Chelsea wanted to get, but I can totally understand your disappointment there. And, Chelsea are just, and Todd Bowley and Clearlake are just prodding away madly and thinking that they know better than everybody else. And I'm sure they've got some unbelievably talented accountants. But, you know, I personally, if I were you, I would be going down the list of being very annoyed and talking openly about Man City and Chelsea particularly selling hotels to themselves and selling, you know, their women's team to themselves and bits of their training ground to themselves. There is actually a regulation in the Premier League rulebook about spirit of the game, you know, like and making sure that nothing makes a mockery of the Premier League. And if they cannot find a way to go down that route, then it really gets to the, you know, and I'd say similarly with the 115 charges of Man City, if nothing comes back on Chelsea and Man City for that stuff, then we might as well give up, honestly. Like, we might as well give up, because there's just no, you know, that, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I've read all of the 115 charges and fully understand the accountancy, but I think it's very clear from the fact that, you know, for a lot of time, Manchester City, you know, their argument from their boardroom was, oh, we've never spent 100 million pounds on a player, but they've spent 40 to 60 million pounds on 50 players, you know, and it's like, the way they've done that is clearly by faking companies and sponsorship deals, and it's not acceptable. And I have to say, for a club like Leicester, who are put in a position where, you know, what are you supposed to do? Like, purposely not come up into the Premier League? And even if you hadn't come up last year, whenever you do come up, you're going to get hit with a PSR issue from when you were last in the Premier League. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, for me, if there's an issue with PSR and the team gets relegated, then that is, I think, you know, that is punishment enough. It's punishment enough, and it doesn't make any sense. And like I said, my overall feeling is that, you know, and Spurs have, and look, Spurs have done incredibly well to, you know, we have a chairman who a lot of Spurs fans actively hate and think that they could do better, right? And Spurs have done incredibly well to grow their club through infrastructure, to get to a point where we will be deemed to be a top 5, top 6 club fighting amongst the cities and the Chelseas and what have you. But there has to be room for smaller clubs to do the same. And actually, Leicester, when you won the Premier League, I thought the best thing you did was build that incredible training ground, that beautiful training ground, and trying to grow the club through infrastructure too. And they can't just, you know, they have to throw the book at clubs like Chelsea and Man City for trying to do it in an underhand way, and allow clubs like Leicester to have a chance again.
The funny thing is, and I appreciate your words there, thank you. But I mean, the Premier League actually show us off as like, this is why the Premier League's so good, because teams can do this. Not anymore, we can't. But you know, the other thing is as well, if had we not come up, the EFL would have punished us. They were both out for us. I know we got a chairman who he's certainly not up there with your sort of Man Cities and Chelsea owners, but he's not pauper. You know, he's a billionaire, and he is fighting this tooth and nail, which is why there's been this delay in no decision being made yet. Because, you know, we're not, what's the word, not arguing it, but I can't think of the word now. But we're appealing.
You're defending yourself staunchly, I think, is from what I've seen.
Yes. And that should benefit the whole Premier League, to be honest with you. You know, but it
won't work. It won't work because you're not a big enough club to pay for the lawyers that Manchester City, you know, Man City pay for the 40 best lawyers in the world to cover everything in red tape for a decade.
Yes, yeah. It's true. It's true. But look, as I said in a thing I wrote for the BBC, we may, you know, at least we're at the race. To use a Formula One term, you know, we're not on the starting grid. We are in the pit lane, but at least we're at the race, and that's something. But I mean, that was our sort of pre-season, if you like. It's never sort of just normal being Leicester.
Yeah. Can I just say, I actually didn't know. I didn't know that you were struggling with strikers so much. So you feel like you're going to the season quite blunt, basically.
Basically, yes. You know, and we've got until.
What happened to Iheanacho? I saw that he went and signed for a club, but did he play somewhere else last season as well?
No. We had him last season. The way, I mean, clubs these days, you only play with one up front. And Iheanacho's best season for us, when he was top goal scorer for us, was when he was playing alongside Jamie Vardy, 2 up front. But that's just not in at the moment, is it? You know, you can't play 2 up front, God help us, you know, but as much as us fans want to see it. But yeah, he basically, we've had to cut our cloth, and he was on a very high wage, going back to sort of, you know, previous seasons when we were doing well. So yeah, he was one that I would have preferred to see Daka go and him stop, but we haven't. I think it's a problem as well, and we had this problem with we had Mahrez when we sold him. Everybody that you get for that position now, he's not as good as Riyad Mahrez, is he? Oh, he's no Riyad Mahrez.
Riyad Mahrez always scored against Spurs for Leicester or City, always.
So did Robert Hoot, if I remember, but I won't bring that up again.
I was there for that goal as well, yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have that. Oh, this one we've got in is no Jamie Vardy, is he? And it's going to take us a while to sort of move past that. But
I'm not sure. Yeah. And Solanke will be hit with the Harry Kane brush, so it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for whoever.
It's funny you should mention Harry Kane because I mean, you can take the boy out of Tottenham, but you can't take Tottenham out of the boy, can you? He goes all the way over to the best team in Germany and they win Sweet Fanny Adams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I do remember, I'm old enough to remember when Teddy Sheringham left Spurs to join Man United, and the first season he won nothing, and we had a whole chant about it for a whole season, and then the following season they won the treble. So I think Harry Kane will be just fine. It was very, I think, going back to you talking about how boring the Euros were, and I agree, Harry Kane, I think, was probably playing with pain-killing injections, and I think that was a very weak call by Gareth Southgate to play him because I think he was at best at kind of 60%. And, he's a great player, but I think he'll win a lot under Vincent Kompany at Bayern Munich. I think they'll do well.
And I think if we carry on with the thing, you could probably do well this season without him. That's the thing. But look, let's talk managers. You have got great manager. I mean, is the manager that every other club would love to have. We love it. I watch his press conferences, not because I like Spurs or we're playing Spurs. I just like this guy.
Yeah.
He says it. You've got to love him, haven't you?
He's a proper bloke, isn't it? Isn't he? Sorry. And, obviously in this day and age on Twitter or in YouTube comments, you do get the odd fan, even Spurs fans at the moment, complaining about, we give away too many goals because we're so attacking or whatever. But we've literally had to find a man who will come in and change the club from top to bottom in terms of mentality, in terms of, we'd appointed basically 3 defensive managers in a row in an attempt to be like, if we get these win now managers, we'll break the curse of not winning anything. And it doesn't work like that. You need like the mentality and the ethos of the club to match the ethos of the manager. And Spurs is, our motto is to dare is to do. Everything we've ever done in the history of our club is to do with front foot, forward thinking, flair football. And fair play to Daniel Levy, who, like I said, gets a lot of stick. He interviewed a lot of big name managers and he went for the guy who was like the proper bloke who said, this is what you need to do. It's not going to happen overnight, but I have a track record of playing this style of this style of football, and I will not take a step backwards. And honestly, some people seem to think it's bad that we came 5th behind Aston Villa last season, but we lost Harry Kane just before the beginning of the season, and Postecoglou wasn't able to bring in an entire squad of players who have the attributes to play his football, but he didn't ever change. He never took a step back. He never asked them to defend on their 18-yard box like we've been watching for years and years under Conte and Mourinho. And it's just so exciting to watch. It's really brilliant. Like whatever happens on Monday night, and I actually, we'll get into predictions, I'm sure, but whatever happens on Monday night, but I think arguably the best time to play Tottenham right now, because, the fans will be up for it. A night game, Sky Sports kind of script game, as I describe it, where they're desperate for Leicester to get a result. But whatever happens, you'll see Spurs play some unbelievably beautiful football, and I think it might end 3-3, it might end 6-4. You just don't know with Spurs at the moment, and I completely agree with you.
We don't have a good track record against Spurs, but Harry Kane always liked to get a minimum of 2 goals against us. But like you say, he's a proper bloke, and when we had Enzo, he was pretty much the same. He had, this is how I'm going to play, and absolutely nothing else is going to change it. And, that's why he didn't want to go to America, because he wanted to spend time coaching. And, so people knew what they were doing. And wherever somebody was on the pitch, they knew what they had to do. That, blew up in our face. Now, we've got Steve Cooper. Not everybody wanted him. There's a lot of people out there wanted Harry Potter, and it's a shame he's not got the England job. So I don't know what he was waiting for. But look, we've offered him the job 3 times now, and if you've got to get on your knees in front of somebody and pleasure them for them to come and then you move on. And Cooper, look, he kept Forest up. one season. He got Forest up, let's say, first of all. He got he kept Forest up. It was his team virtually that stayed up last season, even with the points deduction. Pre-season, I mean, you know, we've won one and which we didn't see, and then everything else we've lost, and we've paid money to watch it, and it hasn't looked good. But
do you think he? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think he will continue the kind of Maresca ball, or will he be a little more pragmatic? Because I've been speaking on my channel, like I've been saying, like I think if on Monday night Leicester open up and try and play us at our own game a little bit, then like I said, I think it could be a goal fest. But the clubs that have had success against Spurs under Ange Postecoglou have kind of sat back on their own 18-yard line and you know, two banks of, you know, a 5 and a 4 and a 1 or whatever. So do you think Cooper will be a little more pragmatic like that?
This is the problem. We don't know. We haven't seen anything in. And I know pre-season games, they're there for fitness and what have you, and you can't read too much into them. And we've probably reviewed them like they were proper league games. We can't work. It's been awful. I mean, if we play like we have been playing, yeah, it's going to be a goal fest, but all in our net. And I'm sure it's not going to be the same when we get to a proper league game. But having watched that, it's really hard to tell what his game plan is. It's almost like he's trying to keep a bit of what Enzo did, but changing it. You can't mix two different sorts of styles. You have to go for one or the other. This game, and no disrespect to Tottenham, I don't mind playing Tottenham. I think I'd sooner play Tottenham than a Man City or an Arsenal.
Sure.
You know,
of course.
I think you can be beatable on the day. I don't think you will be. We'll come to that, I say, with predictions, but you can be. This, though, is going to be a very interesting game. We're going to be watching, and I'm going to be doing a watch-along, and I'm going to be really interested to see what he does, because I can't describe what he does, like I say, because he's thrown and he's had people playing in different positions, and if I had a crystal ball, I don't think I'd be able to work it out.
Sure. Do you think, like, even if hypothetically, you know, Maresca had stayed, do you think you have a stronger squad than, say, Burnley did last year, when Company was absolutely single-minded in playing the same way, and they were found out mostly, I'd say, and so often by the high press that was just clearly so much more energetic and kind of, you know, was so much better with Premier League teams than it clearly was for Championship teams?
Yeah, I mean, we apart from Dewsbury Hall, I think had Enzo stayed, we would have probably had almost the same squad that we had last season. We may have kept hold of players like Kelechi, etc. But I know when Burnley came up, they lost a lot of players because they had a lot of loan players. Well, I don't think we would have done that. We'd have been able to virtually play the same, possibly say KDH would have played the same team. We were all nervous, even under Enzo, that we were going to get caught out, and would this work? And we were using Burnley as like the sort of like, this is what happened to Burnley, just because we didn't end up walking it at the end, but 17 points clear at one point in the Championship. It isn't going to happen in the Premier League, you know. And there's always this spectre of this points deduction and what have you hanging over us. We were worried because, you know, our main centre back Vestergaard, who we'd got from Southampton, had never played. Why Rodgers bought him, I don't know. He never played him. Then suddenly Enzo comes in and turns him into prime time Messi. I mean, the guy, it was like we signed another player, and he can ping a ball literally from one end of the pitch to the other and get it on a sixpence.
Great.
Fortunately, he's got the running speed of Bella Remberg. I mean, he knows. So if he's caught out of position, we're just in the poop, you know. And the new guy that we brought in, bless him, first game, Akoli, he scored an own goal, so that bode well. God, I think I'm going to jump out my window in a minute. I'm really getting depressed here. But like I say, and I feel sorry for Steve Cooper, because, you know, it was always going to be a difficult job, whoever we got.
Of course.
I know a lot of people wanted the guy from West Brom, and others wanted, like I say, Potter. he was going to struggle. Having done so well last season, whoever we got in was going to have a lot to live up to. I just want somebody, and the reason that I was happy to get Cooper, he was one of my 3 that I wanted, is the fact that he can keep, he's kept Nottingham Forest in there. If he gets us to 17th at the end of the season, I'll be happy.
Sure.
Anything over and above that.
But realistically, you have to probably get to 13th to allow for the points deduction, don't you? Really?
Yes, that's it. I mean, the thing is, though, we've got a good start, as in not a good start, sorry, an easy-ish start.
Yeah.
Our first games, we've got yourselves, then we've got Fulham, Villa, Palace, Everton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Southampton, Forest. Those are our games up until the end of October. So, apart from yourselves, Villa and Arsenal, none of them were anywhere near the, European places. So at least we've got a chance to get some points on the board.
Yeah, you need to get some points on the board, because otherwise it could be a long, hard winter, couldn't it? If that becomes a bad start.
If we'd have had a start where we were playing like yourselves and Arsenal, then City, then United, and then we get a points deduction.
I think you'd be all right against United, actually.
Well, probably, yeah. That's a good point. That is a good point. But yeah, so look, people, there's people out, and even one of my co-presenters on this channel that want him out already, and it's thinking like, come on, give the guy a chance. Yeah. Yes, I'm annoyed at how pre-season went. I'm annoyed that we only won one game, and that was against Shrewsbury. But we've got to see what he's like. We've got to give him at least till Christmas and see where we are then. Yeah. Otherwise, it's we'll be turning into a Watford.
Yeah, clearly the board wanted someone with Premier League experience. Like, that's why they're going for Graham Potter. That's why they're going for Cooper. And it seems to be a pretty sensible appointment to me. Like you said, though, I'm as intrigued as you are to see, the kind of the litmus test against Spurs. Which way are you going to approach this? It's a home game. It's a night game. It is a game against a team who can lose those games, exactly like you said. But are you going to play the way that has worked for you in the last 12 months? Or are you going to kind of withdraw and give all the kind of possession to Spurs and just hope that you can keep us out and then nick something from a set piece, which is very possible because Spurs, get ready. Spurs, the worst team at defending set pieces I've ever seen.
Have you not seen us then recently?
Oh, well, it could be a battle of the goals conceded from set pieces then.
Oh God, if you get a corner, celebrate, because we can't do anything with corners at all.
No,
but what's your pre-season been like? How have you done pre-season?
Well, we won all our games, and then just kind of a freak of luck was we, as part of the Harry Kane deal a year ago, they arranged a friendly at Spurs for last Saturday for kind of like goodbye to Harry Kane. And then, as it turned out, because obviously Eric Dyer went there in January as well, it turned out, it was supposed to be a goodbye game, but just a freak of luck. Then we agreed to go on this Korean and Japanese tour, and Bayern Munich were on it as well. So we actually won, I think, 4 games in a row at the start, and then we played Bayern Munich twice and lost twice to them. And in both games, we were outplayed in the first half of both of those games, kind of almost like men against boys. But one thing I would say is we had only one of our kind of normal back 4 available for both of those games. So Romero and Van der Ven, because Romero won the Copa America with Argentina, and Van der Ven was in the Dutch side that made the Dutch squad that made the semi-finals of the Euros. They only came back to full training 2 weeks ago, so they missed both of those games. But we looked incredibly porous going, in terms of defending, and the area that we are most susceptible to is when we are going forward and we pile everyone forward except for Van der Ven and Romero. So the 2 fullbacks are Doggy and Porro, who are amazing players, and they end up playing in like the 10 position. But then if you can nick the ball off us and get some pace going against us on the transition, there are goals to be scored. And that's what happened against Bayern Munich. And if you play that way, then you'll make chances, especially if you're able to score some goals from set pieces as well.
Well, you see, normally I would say that would be great if Daka was fit, because
Sure.
Daka, he could have done the 100 meters at the Olympics.
Vardy in his prime.
Yeah, exactly, prime Vardy. But unfortunately, he is injured because we can't defend as high as we did last season. You know, at some point our back four were virtually just inside the opposition half. You know,
Yeah,
it was
that's what we did.
absolutely ridiculous. And you know, if we did that, we would get so hurt on the counter attack because we haven't got that speed at the back. You know, like I say, Vestergaard, as good as he is, like I say, you know, he's got the turning circle of a double-decker bus. But he can ping that. So, but if we can get it off you, let's say, and he gets that ball, he can ping it right, a really good ball over the top. But you say we haven't got a Daka to run onto it, so yeah, you know, it's a little bit kind of worrying. But look, pre-season, like you say, we can't really too much into it, can we? We win all pre-season games, get relegated, or you know, lose them all, and then you go on and win a cup or something.
Exactly.
But look, we talked about, we kind of touched on last season earlier, but you finished fifth. You know, you're in the Europa League. Your overall impressions of your season last season?
Well, we started with 8 wins and 2 draws from our first 10 games. And at that point, we were like, wow, you know, kind of similar to what you said when you started about Ange Postecoglou, like, wow, we've really got the guy. And then I don't know if you watched it, but we had this mad game at home to Chelsea where actually it was almost, so Ange Postecoglou is renowned for his pre-match team talks. And there've been some recordings of them, and they are incredibly like Churchillian and inspirational, and he really finds a way to kind of get into the players talking about, you know, don't do it for you, do it for the person who introduced you to football, who took you to training every week, and you know, the person who's watching you. And I actually think that Chelsea game where we were top of the league and we'd won 8 and drawn 2, we were like overly pumped up, we were overly motivated. We had 2 men sent off. Maddison got injured in that game. I think Van der Ven got injured in that game, and then we lost 4 on the spin after that. And after that, it was a matter of, you know, can we get our players back? Can we win the odd one here, nick a last-minute goal there? And it got a bit bitty. And it looked then kind of around 3/4 of the season in that we were going to be for sure in the top 4. We went to Aston Villa and beat them 4-0 away at Aston Villa, who, you know, are doing incredibly under Emery. And we thought, oh, well, we're shoo-in for top 4. But looming over us was this period of 4 games in a row. It was like Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle away, and Liverpool away. And we thought, well, look, there's no way we're going to lose all 4 of those. And then we did. But like I said, you know, no shade from me on Ange Postecoglou. There were times we went to Manchester City away, and because of injuries, we played Emerson Royale and Ben Davis at centre half, who are both fullbacks and, you know, old school, not modern fullbacks. They both played centre half, and Ange Postecoglou still had us playing with them about, you know, 15 yards inside the Man City half most of the time. And we actually got a 3-3 draw there. So what I'd say is, like, my overall feeling of the season is kind of what I alluded to before, really. It was a matter of changing the ethos and drumming into the entire club, not just the players on the pitch or the squad, but everybody who works at the club, that this is how this Tottenham is going to be from now on. And actually, I think it's just as important that it's how Ange plays on the pitch and how the staff of the club feel, but also in terms of how we look progressively about what happens next. Because Postecoglou doesn't stay at clubs for a long time, actually. He gets success in 2 or 3 years, and then he moves on to something else. And we need to have a progression plan for after Postecoglou and make sure that we don't fall into the trap we did after Pochettino, which is, oh, if we can just add that kind of win now manager sparkle, it'll work. It has to be, you know,
was that when you got your 10th choice or something like that? Was that time?
No, that was when we sacked Pochettino and Mourinho came in literally the next morning. Like, even like Pochettino was announced at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday or Monday night, and then Mourinho was through the door doing Mourinho stuff the next morning. The 10th choice was Nuno. That was where we took, I think it was something like a record, like 150 days to appoint someone. And then it was the night before preseason training. They were like, I guess we better appoint someone who's around. But I think what Spurs to do, and this is a bit of a weird, what Spurs need to do, it's a bit of a weird thing. You need to look at clubs like Brighton, bizarrely, who just have such a plan in place for what's going to happen, even if the worst happens, in terms of players being taken by Chelsea, managers being taken by Chelsea, staff members being taken by Chelsea, recruitment teams being taken by Chelsea, and think what could happen and make sure there's a plan, because Postecoglou is putting everything in place for Tottenham to start winning things. I'm sure of it. If it's not this season, then next season. But after that, I'm not sure he'll be around. And it wouldn't surprise me if City went for him after Guardiola. because he's worked for the City group before. So there's a link there, and Spurs need to be ready in the long run. But to answer your question, I was very happy with last season. It was a bit up and down, but like I said, just the football was a joyous to watch.
And it's a good point. Like you say, when you take on a manager as a club, you should always be thinking about that next move. You know, I mean, when we got rid of Nigel Pearson after what had been the Great Escape,
the real reason for your Premier League title win, I think it's fair to say.
No, I would agree 1,000% with you on that. But to me, I mean, obviously Claudio came in. I was one of the few that said, look, this is a guy who's never won a league, but he's got second and third and fourth and what have you. We'll take that. Thank you very much. But the thing we had there was that we'd managed to keep hold of Craig Shakespeare. Rest in peace. Obviously, he's just recently passed away of cancer. So, but he was that sort of, if Claudio Ranieri came along and went like, I think we should do this. You'd got Craig Shakespeare saying, that won't work with the player. Not though the player, you think, it was almost as they like, he could give that bit of advice. And obviously he took over when Claudio went. And last season, I mean, Enzo came in and we needed, I mean, it was completely left field. Nobody expected him to come in. 6 days before that, he'd been holding up the Champions League trophy. Left field, and Leicester do have a habit of doing that. And then they must have been talking to him for a while because nobody makes that sort of decision quickly. So I do think Leicester do sometimes have that sort of plan in place. But he came in and he brought all his staff in, and we needed something because we'd gone from 10 years of success, really, like you said, the trophies, the FA Cups and Europe and quarterfinals in the Champions League. And suddenly we were relegated and it's like, what's going on? And he came in and he had that plan. And at one point, 17 points clear. And we were thinking, we're going to break every record going, How many wins did Burnley get? That's nothing, And then he was stubborn and he stuck with what he was doing, and it kind of people had worked us out, and a couple of teams had worked out, with our high press that we could get if they got in behind us.
Exactly the same happened to Ange Ball last year. Yeah.
And when you look at it there, we got up by 1 point, and when we were 17 points clear, I mean, 4 teams there, or 3 teams, sorry, on 90, and one of those didn't go up.
Yeah.
Hello, Leeds. And we hate Leeds. Literally, though, when he left, and this has been the other thing with Steve Cooper's had to deal with, Enzo took every single backroom member of staff because they were all his. He brought them all in and he took them all out. And so there's no kind of cohesion there between, what was happening last season and this season. We did look at Burnley, and we kept saying, look, what's happened to Burnley, and everybody was saying, yeah, but they managed, they lost the players, etc., etc. And I think the fact that we only went up by 1 point in the end was probably good because it kind of grounded us a little bit, and said, but we lost that momentum. Like Ipswich had that momentum when they came up and they got a double promotion. When we had done the Great Escape, having been bottom for longer than any other team,
means
we
a lot.
took that momentum into winning the Premier League.
Yeah,
we haven't had that this season, and that is the big trouble. But yeah, look, it's a marathon, not a sprint, as everybody always quotes.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'd like to be able to say to you, this is how we're going to play. If we'd got Enzo in, I would be saying, yeah, it's going to be 3 at the back that transitions into a 4 if we're defending. And there'll be 1 up front, and you got Mavididi on the left and Fatu on the right, crossing it in. And indeed, he's going to be playing as an attacking footballer. I mean, I've no idea. But you're saying you play a very high line.
Yeah, really high line. So it'll be Vicario and goal. We'll play a 4-3-3. It'll be Porro on the right, Romero and Van der Ven in the middle. Van der Ven is the quickest footballer you will ever see, and somehow also built like a tank. He's like 6'3", but quicker than anyone you've ever seen. So Ange just says to Van der Ven and Romero, you stay back, but by back he means 10 to 15 yards inside your half. And then Van der Ven will literally let people run past him and then just be like, it's okay, I'll deal with it. And then he does deal with it. And then Destiny Udogie on the left, who's such an exciting young Italian footballer. We got him from Udinese initially on. Initially, we kind of sent him back there on loan, and then he came in last season. I saw him in a pre-season friendly against Shakhtar Donetsk, and it was just one of those things where you see a player for the first time in real life, and you're like, oh, they are a cut above what we've had. He suffered a bit of an injury at the end of the season, which meant he couldn't play in the Euros, which was unfortunate. But so both of our fullbacks, very exciting, and Ange has them, like I said, playing in that kind of 8-10 role when we've got the ball. They're so far up the pitch. It's very difficult for teams to know what to do with them other than try and keep kind of 9-10 men behind the ball and make those kind of pockets and half spaces difficult for them to find. And then I'm very sure, I don't know if you've seen today, but Yves Bissouma has been suspended by the club.
I was coming on to that, yes.
Yeah, so he's been suspended by the club because heroically, idiotically, last week he put out on his Snapchat social media a video of him using balloons, laughing gas, which is in fact
it's no
illegal.
Laughing matter, is it?
It's no what?
No laughing matter, is it?
Very good. It's no laughing matter, but also, as a role model, dare I say it, for young fans, it is just a bizarre decision that he's made, which has kind of followed numerous bizarre decisions he's made since joining Spurs. He's such a talented player. He's such a brilliant player on the half turn. He plays in that kind of 6 role for Spurs so beautifully, takes risks to break the press better than anyone we've had since Moussa Dembele. But he's going to be out. So we've got Rodrigo Bentancur, who I think will come straight in. And he has been injured mostly for the last couple of seasons, but played in the Copa America for Uruguay. And Postecoglou has said in his press conference today that he looks fit. So he'll play in that 6 role. Then Pat Matassar, who if you haven't seen much of, he's a very leggy engine room midfielder from the Ivory Coast. Really talented young player as well. He'll play in there. And then James Maddison, who I'm sure we'll get on to. But in general, worth us talking about because Maddison has really dropped off in form since he got injured in that kind of 10th game last season against Chelsea. So that'll be the midfield, those 3. And then I would suggest it'll be Son on the left. Solanke will make his debut in the 9 because Richarlison's still injured. Yeah. And then it'll be either Kulusevski or Brennan Johnson on the right. And I think that will come down to whether Postecoglou thinks you're going to sit deep, in which case he'll play Kulusevski and tell him to get crosses in for Solanke in the air, or if he thinks you're going to play high like Maresca did, then I think he'll go for Johnson to get in behind.
The interesting thing is, and yes, we have lost Enzo, but we've now got Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper knows every team that he's going to come up against this season because obviously he's played them all when he was with Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
And the other 2 that came up with us, he's played in the past as well. So, no, maybe not Ipswich, sorry. So he has got that advantage. I tell you what, I mean, just looking at your signings here, Archie Gray. Now, I mean, I must admit, Leeds fans are going mad, and this would have happened to us, I think, had we not come up. We've seen Leeds, losing players left, right, and centre. Archie Gray, what a talent! He caused us a lot of problems when we played them. Obviously, he's the nephew of Eddie Gray, the great Leeds player. And I was surprised that he left, to be honest with you. I think you got a really good signing there. Yeah,
so I've read a few interviews with Archie Gray. He seems like an incredibly grounded player off the pitch, but also I've seen some stuff in the preseason games from him. He's raw still, of course he is, but he's got incredibly quick feet, brave on the ball, wants to get it. And actually, in the first couple of preseason games, for the first time in his career, Postecoglou asked him to play centre half because we were so kind of lacking in centre halves because everyone was away at tournaments. And he looked stunning at centre half, having the whole game ahead of him. He found it incredibly easy. And then he would just play these fizzing balls into the kind of central midfielders between the lines. And he was like, you deal with it. I'm going to fizz this at you as fast as I can. And now I'm a Premier League player now, and you're supposed to deal with it. And at first, players like Bissouma were struggling to kind of get hold of it because other centre-halves weren't quite as brave. Like Romero always does something similar, actually. He's beautiful on the ball as well. So, yeah, very impressed with Archie Gray. He said in one of his interviews that when the bid came in from Spurs, he spoke to his family and his family said, look, you don't get opportunities like this very often. Even though you're only 18, you don't know what's going to happen. We think you should go and do it. And that's why he did it. And to be fair, I'm sure Leeds fans are complaining, but 45 million, once add-ons are sorted out for an 18-year-old who's never played in the Premier League is a pretty good price.
Yes, indeed. Talking of Leeds, they are on the point of losing Jorginho Rutter as well.
Yeah.
He could be going to Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's 40 million as well, because they're paying his release clause. So they're getting a lot of money in Leeds.
They are. It's what they do with it, though, isn't it? That's, of course, the question. And Calvin Phillips is at Ipswich as we speak. Is at the training ground to organise a season-long loan. I mean, what a coup for Ipswich.
It is, but I actually think that's smart. I got a text on my boys' WhatsApp group earlier saying, what's he doing going to Ipswich? But funnily enough, my friend is a Norwich fan, so obviously very annoyed about it. And I actually think that is a move that makes sense for Calvin Phillips, because I don't know if you saw much of his loan spell at West Ham last year, but he just was devoid of confidence. I think, I think he'd maybe down tools at Man City since he started picking up his 200 grand a week, went to West Ham and couldn't pass it 5 yards and kept giving the ball away for goals. So I think it's smart for him to go to a club where he'll be like the main man and maybe can regain his confidence and obviously play football in the way that he likes, which is, kind of that old Bielsa ball, wasn't it, in terms of playing it all along the ground. And that's clearly what McKenna likes to do as well.
Now, I mean, for our transfer window, I mean, first of all, do you think your transfer window is done now, or are there still players you need?
No, I think the big success of our transfer window has been the kind of 11, 12, 13 players who did not have the attributes to play for Ange Postecoglou, and it was clear. And we've managed to get pretty much all of them out, bar we're still looking to get rid of Gio Lo Celso. There's an argument to say maybe Ben Davis, if anyone was interested in him, could leave, and maybe one or two others. So if we could get the rest of those out and get them off the wage bill, I'd say we've probably got about 500,000 to £1 million a week off the wage bill so far in terms of getting players out. So I think if we can get the last of those out, then we might try and make one more marquee signing. There's been a lot of talk this summer about Eberechi Eze. He's the one that I've wanted to get through the door. He would, I think, potentially he could play wide left or wide right, or he could battle James Maddison for that 8-10 role. And if, like I said, Maddison's form hasn't been brilliant, and he is a Tottenham player. He glides across the ground. He makes good decisions. He can score from outside the box. And I think he is, he also it's mad that this has become a thing in the last few years, but he is signed to the same agency that Spurs do a lot of dealings with, called CAA Base. And that has become a big important thing. The only thing that I fear might stop that is either funds if we don't get Lo Celso out, or now that Man City have lost Oscar Bob to their to a broken leg and Julian Alvarez, they might sniff around him now as well. But I think it's been a fine window. Look, there's this kid Lucas Bergvall who we've got in from Sweden, who's just so exciting, and I think he's going to be an unbelievable player for us if he stays fit. And him and Archie Gray and Dominic Solanke, I think, are three players who play football the way that Ange wants them to play and are good. They have good attitudes, well motivated, feet on the ground, and it will just be an improvement in terms of squad depth. Whereas before we had to bring on the likes of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, great player, but just not an Ange Postecoglou player, or Emerson Royale, or various players like that. And we now have better depth for the style of play we want to play.
I mean, it seemed to take for ages, but Fatawu was a major signing for us. I mean, we knew it was going to happen because that was part of the deal. We had to buy him, and why it took so long, I don't know. And I mean, if him and Mavididi can somehow get that form back from last season, they could cause a few defences a lot of problems. We've not had a brilliant window. Like I say, we're still after a striker. We got Buenete from Brighton. Now, that has excited me. I mean, he's only a youngster, 19, but he played all last season. I mean, they've given him an extended contract before they let him come to us. So they've obviously got plans there for him. But I think he could be the one that could fill that Kieran Dewsbury Hall role of that attacking midfielder, which we haven't really got at the moment. Sure. And he really does excite me. He's in the Argentinian squad. Why Brighton are letting him go, I don't know. Maybe they've got a new manager in, and he maybe doesn't see him in his plans at the moment. And that happens when a new manager comes in. De Zerbi absolutely loved him, know, and he's said great things about him. But the strike, I mean, we have been linked with. I think if there's a striker going under about 20 million, we're being linked with him.
Got it.
And I want to talk to you about this guy because we've been linked with a few, but you might know a certain Mr. Bergwijn.
Stephen Bergwijn from Ajax.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been saying for a while, if Stephen Bergwijn had still been at the club when Postecoglou joined, I think he would have had a very successful Spurs career. He's incredibly direct, incredibly quick. He can hit the ball as well. As with a lot of these wide forwards, sometimes their final ball can desert them. He's not like a... that's why he's not in an elite club, is because his final ball often isn't good enough, but he's still young enough. And, I think that's an exciting link. I mean, I know you're talking about strikers, but just before we get off the transfer window, can I tempt you? I think it's been reported. Can I tempt you with the lesser spotted Oliver Skipp? Because because I don't know if you've ever spoken to any Norwich fans, but Oliver Skipp, the only time he's ever played like a full season where he's played every game, Norwich fans talk about him as the best player they've seen play at Norwich for like 20 years. And he is a very talented player, but he needs games and he needs rhythm. I think all the promoted clubs have been linked with him.
Yes, we have been linked with him, and I don't think there was one person that actually was excited about that link. So no, we will pass on that one. Thank you very much. I think the fact that we've got Buenete in might have sort of killed that one off. But Bergwijn, I would absolutely. Yeah, if we're not going to get Zaha, we've been linked with this guy, and we're going to link with that many names that are losing me, but a guy from Leverkusen.
I think West Ham have been in for Bergwijn as well. Sorry to interrupt.
West Ham seem to be doing a Chelsea this season, so they'd probably. But I'd love him if we could get him. I would really love him, and of course, we all remember those 2 goals he scored in extra time.
Yes, that was an enjoyable game, actually, that one.
It was not. It was not. I'm going to have words with your mother about you. Okay, let's move on. And let's say it's awkward because it was the first game of the season. You've not got really much to talk about because obviously nothing's happened yet. But Don, what will your prediction be for this first game?
Do you know what? Like I said, kind of nervous that Spurs will concede a lot of goals, but maybe in the second half of that second Bayern Munich friendly, Romero and Van der Ven came on, as did Destiny Udogie. So we had 3 of the 4 back four, and actually we didn't concede a goal in that second half. Although Bayern obviously made a lot of changes. So I'm not going to be quite as defensively fearful as maybe I might have sounded. I'm tempted to go 4-2 to Tottenham.
Ooh, wow, that hurts.
I think night game as well. Night game, and I think the crowd. Will you have all your crowd having those ridiculous clapping things that you always have done?
What do you mean ridiculous clapping things?
There isn't a non-Leicester fan in the land who doesn't think that stuff is completely ridiculous. Yeah, you go and find it. Try and pretend you don't know where it is.
I've got them all up, some of them up on the wall. Yeah. I mean, but I got to say, what
I'm saying is, I think the atmosphere will be great, and I think there'll be goals. And I think if there's an early goal in this game, then it will be a goal fest.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've got to say, in defence of the Clappers,
well, they worked.
They did. We introduced them during that the Great Escape season. And the fact that it annoys all the other clubs, it makes them even better. Yeah. Scott, just before I give mine, Scott has said, what's the biggest defeat we've had against Spurs? I'm just looking down here, and I'm going back to 1954, Scott. Yeah. And at Leeds, we lost 7-1.
What was it in the Why would it be at Leeds? At Spurs, you mean?
Oh, sorry. We were talking about Leeds when I was typing it. That's why.
Okay. That didn't happen.
My God. Why am I looking at Leeds?
Oh, you got Leeds on the brain.
I have. You see, they are living rent free in my brain. You see, that's what it is. Right. Tottenham.
I don't think Spurs. I know you said at the beginning that you Spurs have got a good record against Leicester. I don't remember us beating you at yours that often. I guess I'll tell you what I do remember. The time, did Kane score 4 or 5? It was a night game there. It was just after you won the Premier League, I think. And we went there, and I think we scored 6 against you, didn't we? 5 or 6, anyway.
You did. May 2017, 6-1.
Yeah, that was nice.
And there was also the 6-2 at your place on the 17th of September. So you and 4-1. The last time we played, February 2023, you beat us 4-1. You beat us 4-2.
Was that where Son came off the bench to score a hat trick? I think it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, you remembering these way too well.
Yeah, but no Kane to set up Son. So Son he's still a great player and an elite finisher, but he doesn't get as many chances anymore.
Solanke will come on and get a hat trick again. I mean, there was the classic May 2018 at your place, 5-4.
Oh, I don't remember. Oh, was that at Wembley? That was at Wembley, last game of the season, was it?
It was last game of the season.
Yeah, last game of the season at Wembley. Yeah, that was a real goal fest in the sun.
Yeah, you were at Wembley for a while, weren't you? Yes, of course. Look, I find it hard to go against my team.
Of course.
And I can't see us winning, to be honest with you. If we'd had a fantastic preseason, maybe my hopes would be better. But I'm going for a draw in the hope that somebody's smiling down on us Monday night. I've gone for 1-1.
No.
Although
2-2 at the least, I would think, if it's going to be a draw. But famous last words: 0-0 incoming.
Yeah, exactly. Hopes for the season. I mean, look, you know what mine are. I'm hoping that we just finish 17th. Anything above that is a bonus, and that would be even after the points have been deducted. You know, if we can just get that, then we're there for next season. What are Spurs' hopes for the season?
Based on your graphic alone, I'd love us to win the Women's Super League. That's the one that
I do cover the women's game as well, so I've had to put that on there rather than have separate things. But, you did beat us in the FA Cup last season, Tottenham women.
Yes, we got to the final and we got done. I think 4-0. I was there. That was very disappointing. Anyway, yes, I've said on my channel this week that I think Tottenham will finish third in the Premier League this season.
Wow! And a cup, is there one in the? Yeah, there is.
We would love a cup. I think everyone has their eye on the Europa League final. The thing that they're not really looking at, the Spurs fans, when they see that, is, arguably the Europa League should be a bit weaker this season because there's no drop down from the Champions League for the first time because of the new format.
Yeah.
But there are some big Premier League teams in the Europa League, aren't there? Manchester United are in it, for instance. And now Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce has just dropped into it, and he would love to beat Spurs at some point. So I would love that to happen, to win the Europa League. But look, at this point, Spurs fans just want to get the monkey off our back. So they take anything. And actually, the one thing, maybe one of the few things they were disappointed with Postecoglou for last season is we lost in the second round of the Carabao Cup to Fulham away, which is a difficult draw to get in the second round because there aren't even that many Premier League teams in it at that stage. And Postecoglou kind of used it as an opportunity to see the squad players he hadn't seen yet, and we ended up losing on penalty. So hopefully he'll go a little bit stronger in the cup competitions. I mean, in the FA Cup last year we lost to City, so what are you going to do? But a good run in the cup. Ideally, the Europa League. That would be. I'd love to have a big European night out at the end of the season.
Well, good luck with it. I did, like I say, my predictions table wise with Rob Tanner from The Athletic. Now he's in fairness, he's the what I call the expert. So it was the fan versus the expert, and he'd actually got you finishing third.
There you go. I'm not as idiotic as I thought.
Yes, I didn't. I had you lower than that.
Did you have us sixth?
No, I had you fourth.
Oh, that's very kind. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I've got you above Liverpool, above Man United, Newcastle and Chelsea. I've just got Arsenal, City and Villa above you.
I think Villa might find it hard to have a season as good as last season, but I could be wrong. But Liverpool will be interesting because I think all experience suggests following an amazing legacy is incredibly difficult. They've had a great pre-season under Slot, but I feel like if they have any kind of run of difficult losses, then the fans will potentially get on the back of the new manager. So I'd like us to finish above Liverpool. That's for sure. I think Newcastle will come back and have a stronger season than last year. Man United, I think keeping Ten Hag is a mistake. I think they're going about things the right way, making a lot of big changes, but I think Ten Hag, I just think, similarly to what I said about Slot, I guess if at any point they have 3 games in a row where they lose, the atmosphere around the club will get toxic again.
Yes.
I hate to say it, and I find it very difficult. I'll tell you what, I was very worried that it looked like Ederson might leave Man City, and I thought if he left Man City, Arsenal would win the league. But I think Pep, one more season, they'll win it one more year before they get relegated. So I think City will
Excuse me.
City will win the title.
I just want it's like that AOBM, anybody but Manchester. It's getting like Scotland. What I mean? And,
but the problem is, mate, if it's anyone but Manchester at this point, it's Arsenal. So I can't say that.
In fairness, you can't. I mean, I'm sorry, I've got Arsenal winning it just because I want somebody different.
They've done incredibly well to back Arteta from the situation where they all hated him.
Yes.
And it should teach a lot of clubs and their fans to actually have some patience, because I actually think Arteta is the main reason they won't win the league, because I think there's just something about him that's a bit weird at the very kind of when it reaches the kind of real crisis point or the real moment where are you going to get over the line. But he's done a great job there, and they've made some great signings over the last few years.
Being at both, we always do this, and there's a couple there, like I've got at the bottom, Bachelor of the Midfield, old boys. Mm-hmm. Love Maddison. I mean, I've got a signed number 10 shirt of him up on there. Yeah. We have, funny enough, with Ricardo and with Kelechi, once they'd got injured, they weren't the same players. And you were saying this with James Maddison. I was going to say, how's he doing? Are you pleased you got him, or is it disappointing?
I love him. I think he's just like I said about Eze, he's a Spurs player, and he's shown little flashes in pre-season that his confidence is coming back. You know how when he's at the top of his game, he loves to manipulate the ball with the outside of his foot a lot and play those kind of brave balls between the lines and stuff. He's getting back to that, but again, also losing the ball quite a lot in dangerous areas, and I think that is a lack of form rather than anything else. But I really hope he gets back to it. He will start. I think Ange has a lot of faith in him. And what I think about Maddison is he's not scored a free kick for us, and I think he needs like one of his trademark free kicks to go in so he can get that confidence and get playing again.
You said it. He's going to do it against us. We know that now. I know where you live. I'll be after you if that happens now. Look, he'll get a good welcome because again, he wasn't a player that wanted to leave. He didn't leave on bad terms. He left because we needed the money, to be honest with you. A player that we got at the start of this time last season, we're totally surprised, same day as Cody, 10 million, Harry Winks. Look, for us, it was fucking Duracell Bunny last season. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do watch-alongs and I'm trying to commentate on the players, and it's like, I can't say that's Winks because he was at left back a minute ago. Now he's at like right winger, right up at the front. He was all over the pitch.
Yeah. Listen, Maurizio Pochettino loved Harry Winks. He loved Oliver Skipp, even though Oliver Skipp was very young. They're very similar players, so much energy. And I felt sorry for Harry Winks in the back end of his Spurs career because it's just a classic example of so many fans on social media who don't understand football, complaining about Harry Winks because he's a player who likes to keep the game ticking over. I've always said about Harry Winks, he would do brilliantly abroad, and it was no surprise to me that he had a great loan spell at Sampdoria, and they loved him over there. And he kind of Pirlo-esque, but without the kind of, without the attacking kind of forward-thinking brilliance of Pirlo, but wants to get the ball off the back four, tick it over, get it, give it, go back, get it again, go and give it, help out. He's got a great engine. And, he's a Tottenham fan. He was a Tottenham kid. And I think the away support will give him a really good reaction, and I'm sure he'll have a great game, and he's undervalued and underrated by Spurs fans, and I'm really pleased that the Leicester fans like him.
We love him. To me, he was not just our signing of the season last season. For me, he was the Championship signing of the season. I really do.
He got some England caps when he played for Spurs, and he looked so at home in international football, and that doesn't happen all the time. So I was always really upset. And I was at games at Tottenham where fans would abuse him in the stands. It was so upsetting, honestly. So I'm really pleased that he's enjoying himself at Leicester. And I hope he has a great season. I really do.
Yes. But that's fans for you, isn't it?
Of course. Especially young fans.
Yes. They don't get it. Look, Barnaby, thank you so very, very much for coming on and chatting. I'd wish you all the best for the match, but I wouldn't mean it. But I do wish you all the best for the season. When you play us, I have nothing against Tottenham. We have the banter because of that one season, but apart from that, I think you, like I say, you got a great manager.
Yeah.
Links of how people can find you, like I said at the start, are in the description below. But just give it another quick shout out as to how people can find you.
Yeah, great. If you like watching YouTube stuff, come over to youtube.com/@Barnaby Slater _ for daily Premier League transfer news and Tottenham news. If you like Spurs and if you like transfer stuff, I really appreciate you having me on. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Take care, buddy. And hopefully we'll probably speak for the return game, hopefully.
Top man, I'd love to. Cheers.
I'd say hi to your mum.
Will do. Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks very much there to Barnaby. As I say, links are in the description below, so do get over and check those out. Confident? No, I can't say I'm confident at all. Worried? Yes. And look, once we actually get past these are our next 5 games. We've got Fulham away. We've got Villa, Crystal Palace, Everton, Arsenal. That's a little bit of a worry, Arsenal, I've got to say. But I mean, look, Fulham's away, Palace is away, Arsenal is away. I think Arsenal, anything we get from that is just a bonus. Fulham, Villa, we could do that. We don't. Everybody says they're not going to have another good season. Palace and Everton, we need to get some points on the board early. And look, I don't know whether we will get. I've gone for a draw because I can't predict my team to lose. But what I want to see on Monday night is a performance. We've not seen a performance in the pre-seasons yet. I know we've read a lot into the pre-seasons at the moment. We've lost them, etc. But it's not the fact that we've lost them; it's the performances we've been putting in. They've not been good. So I just want to see a performance. Yeah, if we lose, we lose. I want us to go down fighting. I really, really do. At least give the fans something to get behind, which, like I say, we haven't seen. But all the games have been away, I know, but just watching them, it's been disappointing. But let's get behind Cooper. Yes, Scott, I think we can get more than 15 points. Look, forget the top 6, forget the top 7, 8. It's the other teams that are going to be around us that we need to take points off. So, yes, I do think we'll get more than 15. Hopefully so, because if we don't get more than 15, we're down. Let's be honest with you. Even without the any points deduction. Look, as I say, what I wanted to do is to get behind Cooper. Like I said, he's had a baptism of fire. He's come in. When Ranieri came in, he still had Craig Shakespeare to talk him through. We haven't got that. He hasn't had that. He's come in. Everybody that was here last season was an Enzo man. They've all gone with Enzo. And I'm just worried that we don't get behind Steve Cooper. But I hope we do. We are going to be back. No more signings yet, Georgie. No, I've been checking. I will refresh again. If we don't have anybody signed by, well, it is. What is it? It's 5 o'clock tomorrow, I think, for Saturday game. So because we're not playing till Monday, we might have a little bit longer. Phillips going to Ipswich. Why weren't we in for him? Would he have come? Who knows? All I can say I can say this prediction with confidence: it's going to be a long, hard season. buckle up. We will be back. Will we be back? Yes, we will.
Coming up next on Leicester Till I Die TV.
£7 tomorrow, the first of the prediction shows. Follow at Full-Time Focus, at, or one word, Full-Time Focus on X, and message Brad and say you want to join the league. I think we've still got a few spaces available. Thanks to my guest tonight, Barnaby. Really appreciate him coming on. Knows his stuff. Great shows that he does on his channel. But look, thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. Really do appreciate it. But thank you to everybody that's been listening via your favourite podcast platform. I appreciate you lending me your ears. If you're a member, thank you so very much. If you're not a member, it's $1.99 a month. It does help keep the channel going. It does get more expensive to run this thing, and obviously with all the graphics and the time. If you want to know what you get, have a look underneath. There's a link that will tell you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're new, and click that notification bells, and you'll never miss another show, which is, like I say, the next one tomorrow at 7. But this has been LTID TV. I've been Chris. I will be back. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.